okay, I'm going to do something a little different. Usually I go to the whiteboard, but now I'm going to look at the problem and certainly reading it. I realize for some students, and this is, kind of true for all algebra students, let's say, and myself included, by the way, a lot of times when I read a question, I have a really tough time writing down the equation or system of equations to solve the problem. After doing that, though, I'll be honest with you, sometimes it's really tough to solve the problem. Even if you know the equations, it's tough to solve. But over here, just kind of reading it, and I'll read through it. It's $700, simple interest account, certain number of years, certain rate. Kind of understand that. It amounts to $883.75. I sort of understand that. If the time were 4 years less and the rate were 1.5% more, and these are simple interest problems, by the way, the amount would be blah, blah, blah. Find the time and the rate. So what I do, just, kind of reading through it, it says let X be the number of years. That's pretty reasonable. And Y is going to be the interest rate. All right, so this is the first thing I read. There's going to be money, $700, and $700 is gaining interest per year, and it's simple interest, right? It's not compound, just simple. So it's 700 times the number of years times the rate would be the amount of interest it's going to generate. Right, and then the next sentence says if the time were 4 years less, well, I said time was X, so X minus 4 would be 4 years less. And if the interest rate is 1.5% more, what I have to do is, I have to take the interest rate, which is Y, and it's certainly a decimal number, and add 1.5% to that. And you should realize that 1.5% is 0.015. All right. Now, I think for the most part, these are not bad numbers. I'm not saying they are, but I realize a lot of times it's very frustrating. And I just want to go through that at some point, you're going to have to be able to use a computer to solve a problem. So what I want to do is I want to talk about Sage, all right? So I'm going to go to the web, and I'm going to talk about Sage Math now. Now, interspersed through the notes, I do talk about it, but I'm going to go sagemath.org. I'll do that. And I'm going to claim over here, if you want to, you can download the software, yada, yada, yada. I'd recommend it. It's tough, though, but like anything, it's really, once you get moving, that things will go a little bit faster over time. There's also plenty of help, documentation, and there's also this CoCalc Instant Sage worksheet. But you may want to work through this. What I want to do, though, is I want to go to my website, and my website is sage.mathography.org. And what I do on my website, I create a little guidebook for students that want to look at that. And I create a series of projects pretty much at the high school, beginning college level, all right? So like algebra, pre-calculus, and some beginning calculus problems, all right? And you can go through that if you want, but again, you look at it and say, I'd rather do something else. That's what you want to do, right? What I want to do is I want to launch Sage, but I want to go back to my document, and that's it. And I want to launch Sage, and I'm going to do that by going to the Finder, and it's on my computer, and I'm going to find Sage, S-A-G-E, and let's see, Sage. I'm sorry, I did something stupid there. I wasn't doing what I said I was going to do. Sage, I'm sorry. And I just typed it in, and the first thing that comes up, I want to look for the application, right? And I see it right over here. At first I was searching files. Now I'm searching for applications. So I'll double click that. And what's going to happen, it's going to ask me, do I want to run from a terminal or from a Jupyter notebook? Well, my preference is terminal. So I'm going to launch it. Now granted, this may be your first time looking at someone work Sage, but we're in section 69 of the notes, and I think if you've been following along, that you got a real good idea that I've been talking about Sage for some time now. All right, I may not have been using it explicitly too much, but I got to start. Let me just close this out over here, and I'm going to type this in. All right, and what I'm going to type in, I'm going to type in clear first because I want to clear the screen, and then I'm going to type reset. And again, if you've been following my other videos with respect to Sage, you got a pretty good idea. And now I'm going to define two variables, x and y. And these are variables. And I'm going to say x is a variable. And I'm going to say y is a variable. Now, Wells did not have access to computer algebra systems. I mean, their idea of a computer was actually a computer back then was a human, and they did all the work, right? Like, I think for the most part that, you know, even all these problems, I'm sure Wells solved almost the majority of this problem, but they certainly employed computers, which are people, to do computation. There's no doubt about it. Some of these problems are very, very difficult. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to say equation one, and equation one, I'm going to assign it 700 plus 700 star x star y. I need to explicitly tell the machine that, by the way. The double equal sign is indicated as an equation, 883.75, return. I'm going to type in equation number 2, EQ2. I'm going to assign it 700 plus 700 star x minus 4 star y plus 0.015. And what does that equal to? 873.25. Now, certainly, whoops, I made a mistake. I got to find out what I did there, and I got to look at it. And it happens to me all the time. I see it now. I use a comma where I should use a decimal point. So I'm just going to back up over it. Give me a second to do that, and I'll correct it. All right, I did that. Let me clear the screen. And I want to display equation 1 again for you. And I want to display equation 2 for you. All right, the question is, someone says, well, what's Sage doing? It looks like it's padding the numbers, right? You can clearly see that, right? I wouldn't worry about that so much. I'm going to clear the screen again. And what I want to do is I've defined a system. I just want to solve it now. And so I'm going to use the simplest command I know, which is solve. And I got two equations, and I'm going to put them in a listing. And I'm going to say equation 1, EQ1, and EQ2. And I want to solve for the ordered pair x, comma, y. And we've been doing this for some time. And let's hit return. See what happens. And the machine's working on it. Might be not that bad, is it? And someone says, what did it return to me? And I want to point out it returned answers to me. And one of the answers it returns to me is -7. Well, what was x then, if you can recall? And I want to point out, this is why we write things down. X number, you couldn't have -7 years. That's ridiculous. All right, that's not possible. But x equals 10, that's 10 years. And then I got this 21 over 800. And what's that going to be? Well, remember, that was the simple interest. So what I want to do is, I don't think I'd want to talk to someone that way, 21 over 800, but I want to take 21, divide by 800. I'm sorry, 800 I said, right? And I want to write it as a percent. And how would I do that? I'd multiply it by 100. Let me do that, and you get 21/8. All right? Now, I'm looking at that, and I want to write a decimal number down. So what I'm going to do is take 21, and by the way, if I do 21 divided by 8, it's just going to keep saying 21 divided by 8. I need to force it to write the decimal down. Now, certainly, it doesn't look that bad to me. Whoops, sorry about that. 21 divided by 8. I need to use a decimal point. I can certainly do that in my head. 21 divided by 8 goes in twice. So what do you get? 16. So it'll be 5/8. So it'll be 2 and 5/8. But I want to get a decimal. And what do I get over there? 2.625. All right? But anyway, this was a little bit of a reprieve from me doing all the paper and pencil work that I was doing before. So number 9, it's solvable. You'll get these 2 points if you want to do it by hand. But again, if you want to start thinking about using the machine, I'm not opposed. Use a machine. All right? Okay, thank you so much for paying attention.